Welcome to Second Take, the show that focuses on the issues behind the news. While South Africa-born Professor Stephen Haggerty is making new discoveries to help bolster the development of Liberia's first diamond mine, he is urging South Africans to farm for metals to extract value from previously mined ground. Martin Creeman joins me in studio to discuss this further. Hi Martin.
Hi Tracy.
What is the significance of the new discoveries in Liberia?
It's fantastic that there's an election going on there, and this is the first peaceful election, it seems, in decades, or a peaceful transition of power is coming up, which will be the first in decades. We've had quite a lot of stability in that area from an economic point of view, and the hope is now that they can start concentrating on economic development at a quicker pace. And one of the projects that could be turned to account quite quickly, because of all the work that has been done on it, is the first diamond mine in Liberia. And this has really been worked on by Steve Haggerty. And although, you know, he's all over America and has been at Massachusetts University and now at Florida International University and has studied in the UK, he was born in Germiston, just down the road. And we always say Germiston born, Germiston bred, strong in the body, quick in the head. Well, he's been quite quick in the head when it comes to helping Liberia get forward on the diamond front, and he's really enjoyed it, and he likes the people of Liberia. So he's hoping that he'll get an impetus now with a successful election. They need funds. They need funds to actually do the bulk sampling. It's incredible what has happened there, because there have been botanical indicators now for the satellite pipes. Three diamond pipes, and they're all diamond bearing, have been found there. And one of the indicators was plant life. And these plants, he said, look like they're on steroids, but they feed off the kimberlite. And that's what gives you the idea that there's a pipe there, which had proved correct. So some fascinating insight into what is happening in Liberia, where they have found these this diamond deposit, and the three pipes involved, one main pipe and two satellite pipes, is very close to the first gold mine there. So precious metals could give this economy a bit of a boost, and politically it's looking much better from the days of Charles Taylor and the great atrocities that took place there to a much more stable situation. Hopefully they can turn some of this activity to account for the good of the people of Liberia.
And who is responsible for the development of the claim, and what needs to be done next?
Well, you know, a diamond company, Yusuf, has really footed the bill up to now. But we in South Africa understand mining, and that's why I think it's always important for companies to be on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange. We've got a long tradition here. You know, our Anglo-American went to London and they said they were going to raise capital. They've never raised capital. All the shareholders there have demanded dividends, and sucked them, you know, for dividends. Every time they haven't sort of declared dividends, there's been a huge outcry, because they don't quite understand the mining business. It's so cyclical. Whereas if you're on the Johannesburg Stock Exchange and you've got a 100-year background, you understand. Now, it's the same as possibly these American investors. They've just poured money into this, and they quite understand, hey, you know, this is not the sort of investment we like. What is happening here? But they don't realize that, you know, that you've just got to keep going. It's like siphoning petrol out of a car. All of a sudden, you know, it starts flowing, but you've got to wait during that period of siphoning before it actually starts rushing. And they are on the point, this particular development is on the point of really flowing. But you've got to do a bulk sample. And they were really on the threshold of doing that. They didn't have a lot of funds, but they had some funds. And along came those rains. And this is one of the rainiest parts of the world. You know, it ranks with Bangladesh, and it ranks with other big rainfall countries. And this monsoon came a bit early. So it put paid to their plans for bulk sampling. So they need to know how many carats there are per 100 tons, and they need to do this bulk sampling, which I'm sure they're going to get around with funding. They're going to hopefully get funding for that, so that they can really accelerate the activity of this building of the first diamond mine in Liberia, in West Africa, which we see from a precious metals point of view is very prospective.
And how have diamonds traditionally been mined in Liberia, and what would this development mean ultimately for the economy of the country?
You see that in most of these countries there's been artisanal mining. We call it illegal mining in South Africa, where individuals living in certain areas have been used to, on a small scale, trying to find and look for and recover diamonds on surface and in various situations. Now, they have been very successful. Downstream of this particular kimberlite pipe and the satellite pipes, they've been recovering quite substantial sized diamonds on a regular basis, on a weekly basis, 25 carats sort of average, and much bigger than that, going up to 400 carats. So there's optimism that this area is endowed significantly. And obviously the artisanal activities are not ideal for a country looking for a revenue stream from taxes. You need to have the formal operators coming in who are going to employ people formally. They're going to produce at probably a steady state level. They're going to start paying taxes into the fiscus. This is what you need. So with the artisanal activity is great because it proves that the place is endowed, but at the same time it helps a few people, and you want to spread that, particularly with new presidential teams coming in. They need funds to do things there, and this could be one of the things that could give them, along with these other precious metal activities. And they'll need a lot of activity on the economic front, as we know in South Africa. You can have a miraculous political solution as we had in 1994, but now in 2017 people are saying we want economic transformation. So that comes very quickly with political reform, and they need to start building that economy. And this is one of the things that can help them, moving from the artisanal stage to the formal mining stage, which gives you a revenue stream in the form of tax. It gives you foreign investment, which is very important, and it gives you regular exports, which are desperately needed in all these countries. Foreign exchange is needed, and that is what's so fantastic about these mining activities.
And Professor Haggerty is also advocating the farming of metals in South Africa. What does he mean by that statement?
Well, he's saying gold grows on trees. Well, we didn't know that, but he's saying the Australians are finding that gold grows on trees. Well, I'm sort of simplifying it, but he's saying in Australia, in the mined-out Kalgoorlie area, it was a gold rush area. Now, a lot of the mining activity has left a residue of gold, but in such small quantities that our metallurgical and concentration processes just can't do anything with it, the formal ones. So what they're doing is they're planting eucalyptus trees. Now, we know the Aussies brought eucalyptus trees here. You go to Glendower Golf Course down the road and you see all those eucalyptus trees sucking up all the water from the golf courses, etc. Well, they also have this propensity to siphon up gold in substantial quantities, people have found. So what they're doing is they planted the trees there and discovered, yes, in the bark and in the leaves, suddenly you can extract gold. You then remove the bark and you remove the leaves, you create a biomass and you incinerate this and you end up with a gold nugget. So this has encouraged a lot of people, and perhaps we could try it here. And so they're saying, hey, let's plant more of these eucalyptus trees. That's the preferred tree in these mined out areas, particularly gold areas. But not only that, there's a species of plant that the Swedes used to use in the Middle Ages to try and signal where copper was. And that same species, according to Professor Haggerty, was used to outline our Central African copper field. The copper belt was outlined using this species of plant. And he's saying that Australians are now using that in the mined out nickel areas. So you have these areas where there has been nickel mining. You've got the bulk of it out. There's still a residue there, but your technologies can't deal with it to turn it to positive account economically. So you bring in this species of plant, you grow that plant. that plant sucks up the nickel, big nuggets of nickel they've shown. And that could be, something we could possibly also consider here, because it does a dual job. It rehabilitates that land, because as that stands there, you've mined the nickel, but you can't get any more out. But farmers also can't grow things there because of the state of the soil. If you put these plants in, it rehabilitates the soil, prepares them for some other activity later. But in the meantime, you have got nickel out. And they showed photographs of quite substantial nickel nuggets that these good plants can mine for you. And so we've been used to mining for metals. Now he wants us to farm for metals.
This is not the first mention of agro-mining in South Africa. A young Mintech geologist, Tsiamo Legwale, she has talked about harvesting gold from wheat crops. What has she said on the subject?
Yeah, it's incredible. She's won herself an international award. She works at Mintech out at Randburg. That's a state enterprise that's involved in research. And she's sort of dreamt about getting some gold out of our dumps. And we know there are a lot of dumps around here, plenty of material to work on. She's used wheat. I don't know whether that's the only thing that can be used, but the wheat takes up this gold that would normally be not as easy to mine. We know that there are activities here where they recycle the material, they retreat these dumps. We've got a lot of gold in that, and even chrome these days. But there's always a residue. Now I'm just wondering, once the substantial mining companies like DRD Gold and Pan-African Resources have actually done their bit by extracting as much gold they can using the known metallurgical processes and concentration processes, then what is left, they then create a new deposition site. I'm just wondering about those deposition sites. Perhaps that is where you can start putting plants into action, from extracting that final residue that's still in there, but you haven't been able to do it with your means. But if you go along and ask these plants to do a job, perhaps they could recover something for us. In the meantime, what Tsiamo Legwale is saying is that first time round, you use the wheat plant, it pulls in, it extracts a lot of gold, but the seeds aren't affected. So the seeds are not, nothing is done to those seeds. So you can actually then, once you've extracted what you want in the gold, you can replant those seeds in a normal conventional farming route, for a food crop. So it seems there's potential to do things around these mines, and it's great that this geologist from Mintech has actually highlighted that, won an award, apparently gave quite a interesting speech, 3-minute speech, and this is now something that needs to be commercialized. We see a lot of talk about it, but we want to see some profitability statistics, because often people get very, very excited, but you have to keep your feet in the ground as to how commercial this is. And perhaps we need a demonstration plant. Maybe the Aussies should do it first. They've probably got more insight into this, and we could then have a look and see what they do. Or perhaps Mintech, it's got the time, it's got the state funds. Maybe they could do something. It's even got a geologist working on it. So hopefully we will be able to do more in these areas that have been mined out to create a bit more wealth from those precious metals that have actually created some of the towns that are in danger of becoming ghost towns, if we don't get some activity going.
And is the mining industry in favor of agro-mining?
Well, I think we see that there are publications. Australia is going for publications, and now we see the Chamber of Mines of South Africa looking at urban activities in terms of agricultural promotion. Maybe this is the first step by our own South African Chamber of Mines. We know that the new president of the Chamber of Mines, Mkhalisi Mgojo, has been looking at this idea of agriculture, particularly for communities living around mines. And perhaps what the Chamber of Mines announced this week that it's doing in the city, promoting agriculture in high buildings, etc., and growing them in the city and actually getting some yields commercially, maybe that could, the thinking caps could be put on for all this land that we have around these mines. And Mkolisi Mogojo, he's the one that has raised this issue and is starting to mull some ideas of how the community can get involved in agriculture there. And we also see that Sibanya Stillwater has done some very good things out on the West Rand, where it's not a, it's an activity which they involve the community in, agricultural activity. And we've seen that even a place like Spa has bought some of the lettuces that look pretty hot coming out of their agricultural activities, which are completely run by communities in that area. It's a good idea for I think the mines to get involved in this. We know that the Chamber of Mines is researching a new brand for itself. It wants to take the Chamber of Mines brand and put it in the bin and throw away its past, because some of its past is checkered, and start with a new name, fresh name, new brand. And maybe it can expand a little bit beyond just what it has done in the past, big mining, and bring in, quarrying. Already I think the quarrying people are in there, but also things like agriculture, maybe even oil and gas. I think they need to, the gas side, because we know that in the past in the Free State, they would drill for gold, they'd go right through gas, ignore it. And now we see other companies rushing out to the Free State and saying, hey, this gas is valuable, why didn't you do something with it? Helium and other gases. So maybe they'll be more holistic in their approach under the new brand, but we don't know what that is going to be yet. They're working feverishly on research to see what it should be called. And it'll be good for South Africa because it could give us a new big thrust in the resources sector.
Thanks, Martin.
It's a great pleasure, Tracy.
That's it for today. Join us again next week for more news analysis on the South African mining industry.